Did you know that budgeting doesn't have to suck? Did you know you don't have to spend your only day or one of your few days off budgeting and trying to figure out how to make all the numbers add up so that the budget app works perfectly? Did you know that only 1 in 5 Americans who actually budget use a budgeting app? Why do you think this is? What I think is that it's not fun and it's not rewarding. It's more like calorie counting, right? We've all done calorie counting. We've all wanted to lose a little bit of weight or get, be our best fit self or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, calorie counting, if you miss a day, it's easy to miss another day. And then that 1 or 2 days that you miss turn into a week turns into a month, and a month turns into 6 months to a year. And you've not hit any of your goals and you've not stayed on track. So how do we fix this? How do we fix this? Because we have the same thing in fitness apps. We have the same thing in budgeting apps. What I also think is that with budgeting apps, another issue that I see is that they have to be exactly perfect down to the dollar. Everything has to be, it's not really flexible. But your income is flexible, right? That's the crazy thing, is that most people have a flexible income, meaning you don't make the exact same pay every week or every 2 weeks or every month. That your pay changes. Especially if you're a bartender or a server, or even people who work in extra overtime in factories and things like that. Maybe you work 50 hours this week and next week you work your normal 40. And how do you budget for those things? When I was younger and started really trying to track my finances, I learned about a program, and this is, like I said, an older program, but it had a really cool feature. But it was Microsoft Money, right? It was like an old school budget track. You have to download the software on your PC. There was no smartphone, and you had to go to it. I don't even know that there was a banking connection. I don't think there was. Actually, I know there wasn't. And you had to manually put everything in. And I did that. And there was like this thing, it was like a net worth calculator or whatever. And at the time, I think my net worth was like $180, right? But it was just cool. It was cool to see that, if I pay all my bills and then all of this. And then I also, at the same time, was trying to figure out what I wanted to do as an entrepreneur. And so then I learned about cash flow and things like that. And, over the years, I started to kind of generate my own kind of system. And the reason is because when you have flexible income, or especially when you're an entrepreneur, but this works for anybody, no one teaches you really how to budget for the feast or famine lifestyle, right? The feast or famine being, this month everything is great. I made double what I thought I was going to make and things are great. And then next month, now, not only did I not hit my goal, but now one of my main clients can't pay me. They're going to be late 2 weeks. And it's the same thing with if you have service work or anything like that. You have a really good weekend at the restaurant, and then the next weekend is really slow. How do you account for all of that? How do you track that in today's budgeting apps? It's not easy. They don't, necessarily have it set up to put in daily numbers. And then how do you even see what the future looks like? That's the other issue, right? Is our current budget apps, what do they tell us? They just tell us where we messed up last month. They don't really tell us what we've done or what we're going to do in the future, I guess. And I think that's a big problem. And so I've always wondered, why do budgeting apps not have cash flow? Why do they not have forecasting? Startups and companies, they live on forecasting. They live on their cash flow forecast. Why can't you see what the next 90 days, every single day, how much money you're going to have across all of your accounts? Why is that difficult? Why do we not have a solution? And so that's where Spin Ninja comes in. And that's why I wanted to build Spin Ninja. For me, it's a passion project. It's not just creating a successful startup, but it's also creating a way for users to easily track their finances and see where they're going, not just where they've went or where they messed up in the past. If you have a down month, for instance, let's say like a web developer, right? Since I can speak to that as an experienced web developer, and I can speak to how clients sometimes can't pay or don't pay on time, or even the bank holds the payment, right? That happens. The client pays, and then the bank says, we're going to hold the payment for 10 days. Well, maybe you needed that money in 2 days. What do you do? Or how do you account for that? And so one of the things is that we've built this system that allows you to put in daily how much you're spending, obviously, which all of them can do that. But you can also put in how much you think you're going to make. and we can kind of forecast some of that out for you. And then we can show you the biggest things that we can show you, the user, where or which days you're either going to not have enough money, be negative, right? And not have enough money to cover your bills. And hopefully there's enough runway between you and that date. There's enough days, maybe it's on day 65 from now, based on your current spending habits and based on a client not paying, and you're not sure when they're going to pay. Day 65, you're not going to have enough money to cover your bills or your expenses. And so this kind of gives you a little bit more control, right, over your future, instead of just going, oh, I just hope it all works out. I hope that my budget that I set up and everything is in this perfect sterile environment. I hope that it works. But that's not how life works. That's not how anything works, really. And so what we wanted to do is build something that would make it easier for you to kind of be more flexible, right? Whereas we're just always looking more forward. So if you overspend in a category, right, you say, oh, I'm only going to spend, $200 on restaurants this month, and you spent $220, then we want to help you figure out where can you take a little bit of that money out of all these other categories to make up for that and get back on track. It's not zero-based accounting where everything's got to be equal or anything like that. It's really just a simple solution, but we wanted to make it fun. And with the use of AI too, there's a lot of cool things we're able to do now. But the biggest thing is we wanted to make it fun. We introduced Ninja Stars, and that's how you use our AI. And you can earn Ninja Stars by, by going through different scenarios, or by staying on task, or keeping your budget updated, things like that. We also know that you don't want to sit down and go through every receipt. You don't want to do all this. So we do allow for bank connections. However, unlike some of our competitors that only allow bank connections, we also allow you to completely manually track everything if you decide, hey, you know what? I don't know these Spend Ninja guys. I don't want to put my bank information on there. And that's okay. You can just track your expenses however you want. If you want to do it manually, that's 100% okay with us. And so I've tried to build everything with flexibility in mind, but also I wanted to make it fun. There are 100 budget apps out there that are the same thing with a little bit of difference, and they're all the same boring thing. We wanted to try to make it an adventure, right? Because that is your financial destiny, if you will. Isn't a destination, but it's a lifelong journey. Learning good spending habits is a lifelong journey, which is why we call it Spend Ninja. We're not here to help you necessarily figure out what to do with your 401k, or which stocks or crypto, or which house to buy, or whatever you want. What we want to do is we want to help you decide which house you can afford, right? Or we want to help you, build that life that you want, what you think financial success is. We're not here to necessarily say this is a one size fits all. This is what financial success looks like. And some people need that, right? And that's why these other apps are so successful, because some of them have very strict rules on what you need to do to become successful. And that works for some people, but that doesn't work for everybody. And so we want to build something that works for others that want more flexibility in their life. The ones who have that flexible income, the ones who have seasonal work or whatever, the gig workers, the Uber drivers, the entrepreneurs. We really wanted to build something for them. And so that's why I wanted to build Spend Ninja. Because it's a tool that I used a very manual-based system, for the last few years to manage my business, to manage my personal income, and to manage them both together to understand my full financial picture, because there wasn't an app that existed to help me do this. And then once we built Spend Ninja, I decided, you know what though, this is great, but it's not fun. We've got to make it fun, right? We've got to put some quests in here. Every day is a quest. Every day you are trying to figure out where to spend your money the best way to maximize that, right? And so that's what we want to try to help you do, and to kind of make it fun along the way. So, and we don't want you to be the 80% of those who do budget, who just hate it or whatever, or fall off the bandwagon. We really want you to be a lifelong user. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully this was helpful. We're going to be creating a lot more videos and things upcoming. So, please obviously like and follow, subscribe, all of those things. And check out spinninja.com and let me know what you think in the comments.